allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. It is beautiful outside, isn't it? Yes, and hopefully you'll get to go out there for a few minutes, okay? It is going to be a long day, just to let you know before we start. May I have a minute? It's going to be a long day. It may be tomorrow we'll be here. It's going to be a long Saturday for your planning purposes. We'll do our best. We don't have a lot of big stuff left, but we have like 3 big stuff left, and some of them, 3 big bills left. Some of them we couldn't help. We just got them when we got them. And we just need to be flexible, okay? We have tried our best to manage, as you have noticed, the calendar. I want to ask you to, just be kind and patient. We're almost done. No matter what side of the aisle you are, we have done great work together, okay? So let's just count our blessings. The prayer today is going to be offered by the wonderful gentleman from Baltimore City. Okay.
Colleagues, I ask you all to open your hearts and position yourselves for prayer. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. O God, Lord of all humanity, we thank you for bringing us together today in peace as colleagues in friendship. We ask for your blessings upon everyone present here and for our communities. O God, creator of all, guide our hearts towards understanding, empathy, and love. Remove from us all prejudice, hatred, and misunderstanding. Grant us, Lord, the strength to those in need, the patience to work for justice, and the wisdom to build a better world for our children. May our hearts be united in promoting peace and kindness to all. Let us all say, as family, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Current call.
Madam Speaker.
Gonna give people a minute to reach their seats. Thank you. Back is clear. All right. The clerk will call the roll. There being 120 members present, the House is not in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 24th, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered, the reading of the journal.
So order petitions, memorials, and other papers. So colleagues, if I may have a second, we have a really important resolution today. So I'd like your attention, please. We have the resolution. The clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all.
Please listen 1 second, please.
Sincerest congratulations are offered to Delegate and Vice Chair Susan K. McComas in recognition of her 24 years of service in the Maryland General Assembly representing Harford County. She has been a consistent advocate for Maryland's families and children. We thank her for her unwavering dedication and wish her the very best moving forward. Presented on this 3rd day of November 2026.
You are so deserving and so deserving. Yes. So proud of you. So proud of you. The delegate from Harford County, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use the delegates' names.
Permission granted.
Delegate Archon, Griffith, A. Johnson, S. Johnson, and Shalega as past member of Harford County delegation, and myself rise today in recognition and thank our colleague, Delegate Susan McComas, for her 24 years of dedicated public service to the people of Harford County and the state of Maryland. Delegate McComas was elected to the House of Delegates in 2002 and began her first legislative service in 2003. Throughout her legislative career, Delegate McComas has been a consistent advocate for Maryland's families and children. Her work includes multiple bills that enhance safeguards and for vulnerable children and families across the state that improve family stability and legal protections in domestic and custody-related matters. Delegate McComas has been a dedicated advocate for her constituents and respected colleague for many of us in this chamber. Her experience, her passion will certainly be missed. On behalf of Harford County Delegation, we want to thank Delegate McComas for her years of service and wish her the very best in her future endeavors. We also have a couple guests from Bel Air, where Susan started her career as mayor of the town of Bel Air. We have Paula Edding, which is the current mayor, and we also have Liliana Navakaitis, who is actually on the Harford County School Board. And I would ask that all of you stand up and give her congratulations and wish her the best.
I'd like you to say a few words, and that's all the love for you. That's a lot of years of dedication and hard work, and I know you really well. You have a beautiful heart, and it's been a blessing to serve with you, and you leave an amazing legacy, and I want you to feel the love that you're getting today.
I never cried for my mom's funeral. All right, and she died in January 6th of 2010, and everybody says, well, you will eventually come to that point. And it's kind of like, I'm a hard person to deal with. I understand that. And the family, I call them the Irish Mafia, said, no, you need to, close it down. And I just didn't feel like I had the juice to run again. And I didn't want to go out losing as opposed to winning. But I will say that I'm so honored to have been elected 6 times. I'm from Wyoming. I served in the legislature as a file clerk for Senator Simpson. I tell my husband, hey, I got more credibility in Wyoming than I do in Maryland, and they're crazy too. I mean, they're cobalt red. So, and I basically, there is no middle in politics right now, and I'm very sad for it because that's how you make things happen. And I've got 2 frickin' bills that are real simple. All right, and I've already insulted Senator Bidle, and I can't get one out of Economic Matters, and I was told, anyway, well, actually, that's Bidle's over there, but I've also got this very limited bill that they don't understand in Economic Matters. It's an appeal bill. So anyway, if anybody wants to treat me with a bill, please, God help me, yes. I'm still working it. Okay, we probably Xerox a ream of paper, okay, or a box, no, actually a box of paper, hitting the Senate and hitting the House. So anyway, but I want to say that I always thought it was so cool, George Washington and everything, and to be in the same place where he resigned. He could have been a god. I mean, and we don't realize how important he was to the starting of this country, and the fact he resigned his position and is just so humble. And I just thank you all. This is embarrassing.
No, it's not. You're great. You're great.
Madam Speaker.
She lobbied all the way to the end.
Madam Speaker.
One second. I am seriously an eternal optimistic. No, I very positive. No bill is dead until Siney dies. So you never know. Okay. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Speaking of which, I'd like to move.
One second.
I'd like to move the delegate from Hartford County's HB 1301 from the Economic Matters Committee to the Environment and Transportation Committee.
Where's the?
I concur, Madam Speaker.
You concur? Okay. Thank you, everyone. That was really beautiful. Very deserving. Okay. Ready? So we have the yay and nay consent calendar number 10. House bill passed in the Senate. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 254.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of House Bill 254, be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
So order. Message from the Senate, consent calendar number 39. Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the first bill and committee assignment.
Senate Bill 181, Senator Lewis Young, House Rules.
Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So much be considered the reading of Senate Bill 181, be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
Hearing no objection, the bills are read the first time and referred to the appropriate committees. Concurrence calendar number 7. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments. Number 7, calendar number 7.
House Bill 193, State Procurement Transparency and Procedures, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the Government, Labor, and Elections Committee, the vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
There's one amendment. The amendment streamlines the unsuccessful bidder briefing process, undoes changes to certain deadlines in existing law, and pushes the effective date back to October. Madam Speaker, I've been waiting to say this for 8 years. I move to concur.
Okay. So the question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 193 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 193, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 261, State Procurement Competitive Proof of Concept Procurement, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the Government, Labor, and Elections Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
The amendment removes a provision that could exempt proof of concept procurements from the Small Business Reserve Program. I move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 261 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 261, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next.
My finger didn't work. Sorry.
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
My finger didn't work. I'd like to be recorded in the green.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember the yellow slip. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill, please.
House Bill 266, Department of Information Technology Investment Fund, Uses, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
The Senate amendments add an annual report from the department related to the bill. I move to concur the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 266 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 266, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 998, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages, 46th Alcoholic Beverages District, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
The
welcome.
amendments conform the bill to how the House passed the cross-file. More specifically, amendments add a microbrewery license and requires the city board to adopt certain regulations and a template for required MOUs. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 998 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change the vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 998, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1422, State Procurement and Personnel Liquidated Damages Documentation Requirements and State Fiscal Leadership Capacity, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
The amendments conform the bill to how the House passed the cross-file by making a technical fix. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1422 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 120 votes in the affirmative and 9 votes in the Senate in the negative, House Bill number 1422, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on HB 261 from red to green.
All right, turn in your yellow slip. The next is the report of the Committee on Appropriations. It is report number 33. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 467, Maryland Child Care Credential Program, extension of funding, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on the Environment and Transportation. It is report number 22. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 10, State Highway Administration Speed Monitoring Systems, application approval, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 68, Driver's Licenses, Driver Skills Examination, Motorcycle Safety Awareness, D-Torch Road Safety Act, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 968, Education School Bus Fire Safety Standards, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is the report of the Committee on Government, Labor, and Elections. It is report number 41. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 46, State Veterans Cemeteries, Interment, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 85, Department of Information Technology Investment Fund, uses favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed, passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 972, Baltimore City 40th Alcoholic Beverages District, authorizations and revisions, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is the report of the Committee on Health. It is report number 38. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 792, Hospitals Immigration Enforcement Action Policy Requirement, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is the report of the Committee on Ways and Means. It is report number 38. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
House Bill 1028, Caroline County Board of Education Member Compensation Increase, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 508, Somerset County Board of Education alterations, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 705, Caroline County Board of Education Member Compensation Increase, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is the report of the Committee on Appropriations. It is report number 34. The clerk will read the bill, please.
Senate Bill 212, Higher Education Non-Resident Tuition Exemptions for Spouses and Dependents of State or Local Safety Employees, Maryland Fallen Heroes Death Benefits Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
The first amendment is technical. The second amendment clarifies the statute for the Conroy Crier Scholarship Program and the Maryland Higher Education Commission, including prioritization of applicants and funding. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is the report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation. It is report number 23. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
House Bill 5099, Chesapeake Bay Enhancement Program established. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Be so much considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As amended, HB 1599 establishes 1, a Chesapeake Bay Enhancement Program and DNR, 2, a Maryland Seafood Industry Financial Assistance Fund administered by Marbitco, and 3, a specified process to help ensure borrowers' repayment of the Marbitco loans. Committee amendment strikes the mandated appropriations and funding uses for the Chesapeake Bay Enhancement Program, strike the explicit limitation of transportation projects to port activity, and 3, establishes the Maryland Seafood Industry Financial Assistance Fund and authorize Marbitco to transfer funds from certain other programs to the fund subject to a certain revision timeline. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 366, Motor Vehicles Intelligent Speed Assistance System Pilot Program Establishment. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Senate Bill 366, as amended, establishes the Intelligent Speed Assistance System Pilot Program, which must be administered by the Maryland Vehicle Administration. The bill requires an individual to participate in the program if the individual has accumulated points for speeding violations in an amount that would result in suspension or revocation of a driver's license. Generally, an individual must be a participant for 1 year. The committee amendments delay implementation and extend duration of the pilot program by 1 year, clarify the violations applicable to the pilot program, alter the waiting period for re-entry into the pilot program, and add more specificity to the reporting requirement. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 431, Fish and Wildlife, Endangered and Threatened Species and Migratory Birds Regulations, List Petitions, Essential Habitats, and Takings. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Be so
welcome.
much considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
As
welcome.
amended, SB 431 is in the same posture as HB 578 that we passed yesterday, alters provisions governing endangered and threatened species and the irreplaceable natural areas programs by 1, defining foreseeable future and harm under the Endangered and Threatened Species Law, and modifying provisions governing listing or delisting species. 2, authorizing designation of essential habitats for endangered and threatened species and management protocols for the essential habitats. 3, requiring that DNR renew and, if warranted, update regulations carrying out the irreplaceable natural areas program by July 1st, 2033, or at least every 10 years thereafter. And 4, requiring DNR to adopt regulations authorizing the taking of black vultures under certain circumstances. Subcommittee a committee amendment strike a prohibition against the taking of certain migratory birds. Move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will be so kind and read the next one, please.
Senate Bill 558, Chesapeake Bay Enhancement Program and Maryland Seafood Industry Financial Assistance Fund established.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
welcome.
Be so much considered the reading of
So
the amendment. SB 558 is in the same posture as HB 1599 that was just read into record at the top of the calendar. Please move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 947, Maryland Transit Administration Reform Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader, the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Move so much we consider the reading
So
of amendments. The amendments alter the membership and conflict of interest standards for the Baltimore Core Transit Service Board. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is the report of the Committee on Health. It is report number 37. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 489, Health Occupations, Physicians Trained in Foreign Countries, Exemption from Educational Requirements and Limited License. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Good
Move
morning.
so much be the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1 is technical and alters the short title. Amendment number 2 authorizes a visiting physician to engage in certain training if the visiting physician has had disciplinary action under limited circumstances approved by the board, removes 2 redundant references to Puerto Rico, adds a definition of foreign country, and makes conforming changes, authorizes a holder of a limited license to practice in a nonprofit clinic serving a HPSA if the license has a certain minimum amount of practice experience, sets requirements for employers of limited licenses, establishes requirements for a holder of a limited license to apply for full licensure, prohibits an employer or licensed physician from accepting compensation as a condition of employment or approval of the licensee's readiness to practice independently, and requires the board to report back to the Senate Finance and Health House committees on status of preparations to begin accepting applications, and if unable to meet the bill's deadline, the projected date, to begin accepting applications. Please move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Right. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 898, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Registered Behavior Technicians, Reimbursement. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Good morning.
So much we consider the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 revises the definition of behavior technician, adds language to terminate the act if on or before June 30th, 2027. The act becomes inconsistent with the federal law, requires MDH to notify DLS within 5 days if those inconsistencies arise. Please move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The next report is a report of the Committee on Ways and Means. It is report number 39. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 204, Public Schools Maryland Civic Excellence Program, established. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader for Ways and Means.
The exact thing I was afraid of. Thank you very much. No, my fault too.
It's okay.
Make sure I'm on the right bill.
You're blushing, but it's all good.
Okay. Yes. Hello, everyone.
They love you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Go ahead.
So much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 requires the Civic Seal program to include a capstone project, bringing this bill into alignment with House Bill 57, as passed by both chambers unanimously. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move the amendment.
You're welcome. The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 890, Insurance Captive Insurers Premium Receipts Tax Moratorium and Study. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
so
welcome.
Be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
The amendments strike the proposed insurance premium tax moratorium and alter the contents of the required study and date by which the Maryland Insurance Administration must complete it. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
May the floor leader please rise
Floor
for
leader.
questions.
Good morning.
As this bill's been amended, what is it doing now?
The bill is now just a study. It requires the Maryland Insurance Administration to look into this particular tax and to report back to the General Assembly by January 1st.
So I believe the original bill, there was a moratorium for 2 years. That's now been taken out.
That's correct.
To the amendment. Okay, thank you. So, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to share with the body here is that I spent 25 years in healthcare, and I can attest that I have been to every single hospital in the state of Maryland during that 25-year period. 20 years of my life I lived in downtown Baltimore, and I was within walking distance of 3 of the greatest medical centers, not only in the state but in the world. East Baltimore University of Maryland, Mercy downtown, Johns Hopkins in West Baltimore. Now I'm over in the Eastern Shore. We have Tidal Health, we have Shore Health, the University of Maryland's medical system, Adventist, Meritus, Luminous. One of the most proudest things I can say here is we are so safe, we are so taken care of because we have great health care and we have great hospitals. And on top of that, there's an incredible network of trauma care that works with all of them. And one thing, every hospital in the state of Maryland is nonprofit. We don't have for-profit hospitals. In fact, there was a bill this year that said that we can't even bring in a for-profit hospital. But a for-profit hospital does not want to come to the state of Maryland because of our rate system and this thin margins of which they work on. I spent time listening to the testimony in Ways and Means the other day, and I heard some discussion about executive compensation. We have the best health care in Maryland because we hire the best. And sometimes it takes money to hire the best. And I can assure you, knowing the health care here in Maryland, they were working within the guidance of the law and MIA, nothing being nefarious done. I wish this bill had stayed in its original posture, but when it comes up to third reader, I'll be proud to stand and vote for this bill to protect and support Maryland hospitals. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Quorum call, please.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
My button is not working.
Give us a second. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it working now? Thank you. All right. Any other questions or concerns? All right. Will the clerk be so kind and take the call? There being 133 members present, the House is still in session. Thank you. Members, we're going to start with House third reading calendar number 140. For those of you that are following, we're going to start with the first bill. Will the clerk read the bill, please?
House Bill 145, Election Law, Election Misinformation, Election Disinformation, and Deepfakes.
House Bill number 145 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 145, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. So clerk will read the next bill, please.
Also 1069, Election Law, Absentee Ballot, State and Federal Requirements.
House Bill number 1069 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority with...
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
You know, I grew up in a proud military family. My dad was a pilot, and so we lived abroad. We lived in Asia for 3 years, Korea actually. We lived in Spain for 3 years in Europe, and we moved. Every 2 years we moved. And I raise this issue because when you live abroad and you serve in the military, you get like an absentee ballot. And that was kind of the intent of these exceptions to when you should vote on election day. It was really for unusual circumstances like our servicemen and women that are making our country proud. But what we've seen, and really we've seen a lot in Maryland, is it's too much, right? Voting at bus stops. I mean, just the amount of laws that we're passing and exceptions where we're rerouting bus routes for voting, early voting, absentee voting. They're counting mail ballots 2 weeks after the election. A lot of these things are breeding less trust in our electoral process, to be honest with you. I mean, I think we want to encourage people to vote, absolutely. We want as many people to have a voice. That's why we fought so hard against gerrymandering in the state, because we want everyone to have a voice, including Republicans. But what this bill is attempting to do, one, is it's suggesting that if the Supreme Court makes a decision, which by the way is the law of the land, if the Supreme Court makes a decision that is the law of the land, this body is somehow saying, oh no, we're going to do something different. Even if the Supreme Court says you can no longer count ballots 30 days after an election, we're somehow going to say, oh, that doesn't apply in Maryland, doesn't apply to state elections in Maryland. And so I think it's just a bridge too far. We've now left just trying to help like military folks who vote via absentee ballot, which is a good thing, and other folks that qualify for that, to now saying everyone can vote from abroad and everyone can vote after the election. It's just too much. It's too much. And I think people on both sides of the aisle have great distrust, that was the word I was looking for, distrust in the electoral process because of bills like this. What are we trying to do here? Is this a bill to shun the Supreme Court, the law of the land? I don't know. Is it a bill that suggests that we should just be able to vote in perpetuity after an election? Maybe. But that's why I'm going to be voting against this, because I believe everyone should have the right to vote, but there has to be some guardrails. Otherwise, there's going to be extreme distrust in the electoral process, and none of us want that. We've been dealing with that on both sides of the aisle, the distrust in the electoral system. I don't want to deal with that anymore. We should have a cutoff date, and it's called the election date, right? But if you're serving abroad in combat and you're serving in a military base, we should have some exceptions, but those should be exceptions only. It shouldn't be where we keep loosening the rules to a point where nobody trusts the system. And that's why I will be a red on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
And a bridge too far. This, friends, is the bridge that we're already on, and we have been on for decades. The state of Maryland decided in its infinite wisdom decades ago that some voters struggle because they're working 2 to 3 to 4 jobs to be able to get to the polling place on election day. That some voters with disabilities need help being able to cast their most important constitutional right they have, the right to elect their leaders that represent them in their levels of government. This bill simply looks at what already the state of Maryland does and has been doing for years and years and years to protect the sanctity of the right to vote, and recognizes that people have the right to vote all the way up to election day, including our military veterans, including our military officials overseas, including our military folks overseas. And as long as that ballot is cast and postmarked on election day, that vote will be counted. There is no greater sense of transparency and ability to assure that every Maryland voice can be heard than to vote green today on this bill, to say that in state and local elections, should the federal government choose to do whatever the federal government wants to do about federal elections, the state of Maryland will continue to stand with Maryland voters to say that your vote is as equal and important as everyone else's. And I encourage all of my colleagues to cast green. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Carroll County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
A struggle to get there, working a lot of hours. I understand that, and that's why we did change to early voting, and we've had that for quite some time. Early voting this year is from June 11th to June 18th. It's a full week. It includes a weekend. That combined with being able to drop your ballot off after hours, after whatever the working hours are, dropping it off at the Board of Elections, I think we've bent over backwards to be as fair as possible and to make sure everybody can vote. And it's this bill this year. Is this going to be enough time? Are we going to come back next year and add more time? And so for that reason, I think that we've done a good job. I think anyone that wants to cast a ballot, certainly in this state, is able to. And for that reason, I will absolutely be a red vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore City.
We as a legislature did not make the ultimate decision expanding the right to an absentee ballot. The voters did, because when we tried to do that by statute, it was taken to court. Then the Court of Appeals held we could not do that, so we amended the Constitution, and that was approved by the voters of this state to expand the ability to use absentee ballots to vote. Number two, the Supreme Court is not being asked to rule that the states may not accept ballots postmarked on Election Day but received afterwards. This bill would not be in violation of the Supreme Court ruling in the Mississippi case. That's just not true.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I think it was 2022, we had a jurisdiction actually lost 10 of the thumb drives. Lost them, misplaced them. Now, what does that say? That really says to me that there's a problem. When more people put their hands on anything like this, the more problems are going to be, because people do make mistakes. It's obvious people do make mistakes. I'm still trying to wrap it around my head how they lost 10 thumb drives. As important as those thumb drives are, luckily we had paper ballots to back it up. That's the only thing that really saved us. And that same jurisdictions was counting absentee ballots from the previous election. And unfortunately, my former chairwoman's not here. She felt the same way as I did. You know, how do you lose 10 thumb drives? Anyway, by extending this, I believe that we're going to just leave more time to make mistakes. If the UPS or Postal Service can't get them there on time, why not? Are we going to find ballots stuck away someplace that didn't get counted? And I'll be honest with you, the other thing is when you're going to start separating the federal from the state, there's another doombot, or whatever you want to call it. It could be a problem. And that way, I'm just going to be honest. I'm voting red for this, and I'm all about everybody voting and having that right. I'll tell you a little story real quick. I was working a poll. Little old lady, I guess around 90 years old, come walking up, couldn't hardly walk. She had to walk a little bit, take a chair, sit down, walk, and get to the poll. And that day, I made a promise to myself that I would do everything that I could do to protect her vote. She should not lose her vote, or anyone should lose their vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the lady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I just want to remind that there are service members working and abroad representing us, and they too have the right to vote. And I come to you to this conclusion with personal experience, because I came to my political career where I won by 6 votes. 6. we had to do a recount, and it took a month to find out who won. And if it had not been for those members abroad, I would not have taken this route. So I urge, give everyone a chance to exercise their rights. And let's also not mention that even in the best of cases, there are hanging chads. So please, let everybody exercise their right to vote. Thank you. Press green on this legislation.
Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So House Bill 1069 is yet another election law bill in an election year. I have to tell you that since being here, I've never seen so many election law bills to change the way we vote during an election year. And when you see bills like this and you see them put in one after another during an election year, what it reminds me of is that we are living in this state in a post-constitutional republic. Because why would you change and constantly change the laws of how people vote, but at the same time oppose voter ID? And that is a fact. The Democrat Party opposes voter ID. Why? You're pushing, this bill, House Bill 1069, pushes the voting farther and farther away from in-person voting, and at the same time, you oppose voter ID. What could possibly go wrong? And you're doing it in an election year. And so that's why I say that we are living in a post-constitutional republic in this state, because this isn't the only bill that we've seen this year. We saw another bill to try to cancel Andy Harris, the only other opposition voice in the state of Maryland after you rigged the elections with gerrymandering. Not just in this legislature, but tried to rig the elections by gerrymandering. It's gerrymandering. It's gerrymandering. Because we all agree it's wrong. I mean, at least I hope we agree gerrymandering is wrong, because gerrymandering is by definition rigging. It's wrong. And so I've actually lost count how many election law bills have actually passed this session and or been introduced to try to fundamentally change the way we vote and push people farther and farther away from voting in person. And as you know, even when you vote in person in Maryland, there's no voter ID, and obviously no voter ID when you're farther and farther away from the ballot. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when the issue was, well, people who are disabled can't get to early voting during that full week of early voting. I remember suggesting that we just hire a lot more people during election years at the Board of Elections in all the counties, the local boards of elections, to assist those individuals, to go to their homes, to help them vote, to assist them, so that we have actual election officials who are employed by the local election boards or the state board of elections, you choose, to make sure that these individuals have that opportunity and that we can verify that they are who they are. That is a perfectly reasonable way to fix the problem that you say that you're trying to solve, but for whatever reason, you don't want to solve that problem, and I don't understand it. So I would just like to finish with this. I'm obviously voting against House Bill 1069. It's so disappointing that this legislature is undermining the confidence that the people of this state have in elections. All you would have to do is implement voter ID and the other suggestion that I had. But it is so disappointing that you are constantly passing bills to change election law to make it less and less reliable. And we all know that that's what's happening. And that's why I started out this conversation today saying we are living in a post-constitutional republic, because for whatever reason, there is an entire party in this state who believes that trust but verify should be the rule of law. And we are losing that rule of law every day because of rigged election bills that we see passed in this legislature one after another. And by all means, get up and say, oh no, they're not rigged. Gerrymandering is rigging. Okay, it is. It's wrong. And while this bill isn't a gerrymandering bill, it is a de facto bill that allows people to vote and we don't even know who they are. Lastly, I'll say this. When I asked Jared DeMarinis in the committee about drop boxes, we don't know who's dropping the ballots in the drop boxes. We don't know who's collecting them. We don't know who's marking. We don't know who's marking the ballots. We just don't know. And we can say, oh, well, the ballot was indeed mailed to the right voter. That may be the case. But it's also the case that in my household, my son still gets a ballot and he lives in New York. What could go wrong? So again, we are living in a constitutional, post-constitutional republic with a party that for whatever reason doesn't want to enforce the rule of law and make sure that the people who are voting are who they say they are and that they are indeed American citizens. So for all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I'm voting no on this bill.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know my good friend from Southern Maryland, we don't agree on, I think, on our electoral system in ways in terms of how people access the ballot, and that's okay. But I want to
Can we listen, please?
But I want to bring, I just want to bring us back to this bill that we have right now for consideration on third reader, HB 1069. And specifically, we know that the current administration has basically raised a lot of cause for concern for some of us about how we will now count ballots that are mailed in. Typically, it's been recognized that if the postmark date reflects the election date at the least, that those ballots will be counted. And so this bill is just making sure that we can clarify that the state will be able to still count these ballots and that many Marylanders who want to vote in our local elections, that their voices will be heard. So for all those reasons, colleagues, I will be voting green on this bill. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the floor leader could rise for a quick question, please. Thank
Madam
you.
Speaker.
Hey. Good to see you, my friend.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I don't know what page it is. I'm sorry, it's page 3 of the fiscal note, 4th bullet. It talks about the voter affidavit. Walk me through that. Walk the chamber through that process.
Of course. So page, help me, get me there again. Page 3.
No problem. I'm sorry.
About the postmark and the voter affidavit.
Yeah. So page 3, 4th bullet. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Bullet number 2, right?
No, I'm in the 4th bullet. It talks about Fleet Post Office or Postal Service or any other by the voter's affidavit that the ballot was completed and mailed by Election Day. What is that? Walk me through that affidavit process.
Apologies, I'm hearing
no
it's current law, but I'm not sure where. Oh, you're in the fiscal note. My
yeah,
apologies.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Let me get in
Yep.
there real quick. Page 4.
Page 3.
Page 3, bullet point 4. Yep. I got it here.
Okay.
I have it here. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is the current regulations as they exist.
Yeah, so, but walk me through that affidavit process. I mean, is the ballot cured until are we reaching out to people? Or?
Right. So so there's sometimes that a ballot is mailed in and the postmark itself is illegible or was never marked by the federal government. Like the USPS didn't simply never postmarked the ballot. It is a possibility that it happens. It's considered a mistake of the government office. And so because it's considered a mistake of the government, we then rely on the affidavit that's inside of the ballot that says that the person did indeed fill this out under the penalty of perjury, that they filled this out on or before Election Day.
Okay, so that comes with the ballot. That could be filled out and signed, and then regardless of whether or not the postmark is legible or illegible, that ballot's already preloaded in there. Or I'm sorry, that affidavit, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the standard practice for, again, they always rely on the postmark. It's only when the postmark is either illegible or the USPS forgot to put the postmark on the ballot itself.
So the affidavit, so we don't circle back and reach out to them. That affidavit could be pre-signed.
Under the penalty of perjury, yep.
Be pre-signed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'm not totally opposed to the idea of absentee ballots. I was sick on more than one occasion and actually used one myself, but I do have some serious concerns with the direction, like many of my colleagues said, that our state is going in, particularly because we have some serious issues with our voter rolls being incredibly bloated and inaccurate. But also, I just want to for a second share with you guys that if these policies worked, I believe we would see different outcomes. In 1992, our voter turnout was 81%. 81%, that's pretty good. That's pretty impressive. But by 96, it was down to 70. Popped up a little bit in the early 2000s to 75%, 78, 74, 66. Do you see the direction we're going? It's not working. These policies are not actually causing more people to retain their right to vote in the state of Maryland. They don't work. So one must ask, when the data shows they are not doing what they are supposed to be doing, why, pray tell, would we continue to do them?
Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I'm voting green because when we cast a ballot, it should be counted. Here in Annapolis, we have off-year elections for our municipal city elections. And we saw where the post office was having a very difficult time, even though those ballots were turned in before Election Day, actually getting to the State Board of Elections in order to be counted into the city. Why is that? We heard about facts. We heard about what's actually happening. And time and again, when we talk to those at the Postal Service, it's because in August of 2020, multiple sorting machines were ripped out of the Baltimore main office of the post office, right? Postmaster General DeJoy took them out. 68,000 pieces of mail in an audit were found to be sitting around, still unprocessed. We need to make sure that if you put your ballot in the mail prior to Election Day, even though it's not the same post office that doesn't get things to the place that they're supposed to be delivered within 5 days, that gets counted. So for all of the mothers in my district who use absentee ballots, for those who take care of their children at home, for those who are members of the sandwich generation who need those absentee ballots to take care of their parents, I'm a happy green vote.
Recognizing the gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And before, unfortunately, the bill sponsor and the election law subcommittee was moved away from our committee, I had the opportunity to serve in the election law subcommittee for several years. And so it's not just this bill, it's the package of bills in its entirety where we've moved this slowly, inch by inch, over the last 4 years specifically. And we've created lots of opportunities. And again, I'm not going to sit here and allege massive election fraud. What I'm going to say is we've created opportunities at joints in between the process where it creates opportunity for bad actors, if they chose, to commit fraud. So first and foremost, we created the opportunity to request the absentee ballots. But then it's in perpetuity. So now I'm going to get my absentee ballot in perpetuity to my address. So if I leave and somebody comes back and requests and somebody else moves in, if there's an apartment or something or a house that's being rented that turns over every 6 months, that's potentially 8 absentee ballots sent to one address in perpetuity unless we purge that from the rolls. And we see people who no longer live in Maryland receiving these absentee ballots. And when we start stacking all the laws that we've passed over the last few years, it is creating opportunities for bad actors to find ways to exploit it if they saw fit. And that's it. When we create laws, it's not just to create opportunities for good people to be able to vote. We got to make sure we're watching out that bad actors cannot exploit those laws. And we've been fixing a lot of laws in the General Assembly over the last few years, trying to close loopholes where people have exploited that. And unfortunately, this bill and that overall package over the last 4 years has created multiple opportunities, and it's very, very concerning until we start closing some of these loopholes, and so I'll be voting red. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So the minority whip said that we used to just have this really for military and overseas, but thank you to this committee, this speaker, and the previous two speakers. We have expanded absentee balloting to allow people the convenience of being able to take advantage of their constitutional right to vote and do it in the most convenient way possible. What the State Board of Elections has found is that there is no fraud, this is 100% secure, and they have ensured us that everybody who has the right to vote is being given the opportunity to be able to vote. And this bill does not expand or change people's right to absentee votes, which I don't understand why the minority party keeps talking about that. What it does is it continues the policy that we have had since I was I was given the opportunity to chair the election law subcommittee years ago, which basically said that if you vote by election day, your vote can be counted. So why should people who just choose to go to the polls on election day be able to have their vote counted, but people who mail in their vote by election day shouldn't be able to have their vote counted? I think that what this bill does is says that if you vote by election day, your vote can be counted. It's a great bill, and I am proud to vote green.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just very briefly, to explain my green vote, as a member of the GLE committee, we're new, obviously, to election, and it's been a really wonderful experience this session. And I just feel like we strayed from the purpose of this bill. This bill is simply to continue the policy that we have in place. If the Supreme Court rules a way that many of us would disagree, we as a state, we've talked a lot about federalism throughout this session. The states have the ultimate authority over their state elections, and all this bill does is say that we will continue to maintain that authority in the same policy that we've had. And so with that, I am proud to cast a green vote.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What the
Minority
bill does,
leader, go ahead.
Thank you. You can demote me. It's okay. That might be a better job. Thank you.
Listen, you said it yourself. I didn't say anything, okay?
What the bill does is it creates two separate standards. In a federal election, your vote is going to be determined as cast when it's received, and if it's received after election day, it's not a vote. But in a state election, your vote is going to be determined to be cast when it's received. It is going to cause chaos, confusion. It is again having separate rules for me, but not for thee. It is going to cost money. That is obvious. There is no earthly reason to do it. Have one standard for elections. Your vote is cast when received. We don't oppose absentee ballots. We're not even opposing, although some of us don't like them, drop-in mailboxes. We're not opposing early voting. My goodness gracious, if someone doesn't vote in a Maryland election, they have got to be one of the most incompetent individuals to walk the face of the earth. It's so possible to vote. We give you a bazillion different ways, a bazillion different times. And you're still like, well, I just waited until election day at 4:30 in the afternoon and I stuck it in the mailbox. I just figured it would count. But it won't count for president, it won't count for Congress, it won't count for Senate, but it'll count for the state elections, and our Board of Elections will have to ferret that out for weeks and weeks after the election. That's foolish. There's no reason to do it. Go with one rule for everybody. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, it was interesting we had the good delegate from Harford County come up onto the up front there this morning in honor, and she said there's no middle anymore. And I think part of that reason is we've lost trust in our election integrity on both sides. You know, when we lose, we are upset. When the other side loses, they're upset. It's because we've sown so much discourse and mistrust into our own election process. And the minority leader, or the minority whip said it earlier, that, you know, he grew up in a military family. And yes, that was when we used to have mail-in ballots. And I went back and researched 2012, New York Times, Adam Liptick wrote an article about how ripe and prevalent mail-in ballot fraud was. And it was far more likely to have fraud with mail-in ballot. Coincidentally, that is when the Republicans used to win more mail-in ballots, because we had the military vote. I am fine with mail-in ballots. We have to accept that. But we can't just continue to sow more and more distrust into the system, or we're never going to get back to a point where we're starting to at least work together. Right now, after every election, it is so divided. Everybody wants to go one way. And admit it, when you lose, you're like, man, they cheated. Everybody in here has said that. Come on. When President Trump won the first time, you didn't say, wait a second, what happened there? Come on.
Your time is going to run out.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, your time is running out. The clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 38 votes in the negative, House Bill 1069, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With all due respect, I love you to death. But this was third reader on an important election bill, and I wanted to ask the floor leader a couple of questions about the practicality of an election that's coming up in 2 months. And I wanted to explain my vote too, and it was cut off, and there was another person who also wanted to stand up as well.
Well, I didn't see you, but I have to tell you, I let it go for a long time.
But this is an important bill,
I really did.
All right, thank you.
And so I apologize, I didn't see you, but I allow it for a very long time. All right, the clerk will read the next bill, please.
Council 1353, homeless individuals fee and examination exemptions.
House Bill number 1353 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1353, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 8, the clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments. Recognizing the Chair of Appropriations.
House Bill 680, Children's Cabinet Fund, renaming and funding for grants to local management boards, amendment number 1.
Move to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 680 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 117 votes in the affirmative and 17 votes in the negative, House Bill number 680, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 809, Walter Sondheim Jr. Public Service Internship Scholarship Program, funding, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Chair of the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to
You're
concur.
welcome. The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 809 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 113 votes in the affirmative and 16 votes in the negative, House Bill number 809, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 845, Higher Education Student Financial Assistance, Alterations to Scholarship Programs, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Chair of the Appropriations Committee.
Move to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 845 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 845, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1139, State Retirement and Pension System, Administration and Clarification, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to concur.
You're welcome. The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1139 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1139, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you. My button didn't work.
You're welcome.
809, House Bill in the red, please.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Oh, yes. Why don't we go to the gentleman I heard first from Anne Arundel?
Heckle and Jekyll, yes. House Bill 809 to yay, please.
The other gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Jekyll.
Okay.
809 to yay, please.
The lady from Carroll.
House Bill 809 to no, please.
Please remember to turn in your yellow slips, okay? Concurrence calendar number 9. The clerk will read the first bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 1470, Medical Assistance Programs, Drug Dispensing, Cost of Dispensing Survey, and Fee for Service Professional Dispensing Fee. Amendment 1.
Recognizing the committee chair of the Health Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We respectfully move to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 1470 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1470, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1483, Clinical Professional Counseling and Social Work Out-of-State Providers, Use of Telehealth for Continuity of Care, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Health Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We respectfully move to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate with amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1483 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1483, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 10, the clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 427, Task Force on Responsible Use of Natural Psychedelic Substances, Extension, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We
You're
respectfully
welcome.
move to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 427 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 105 votes in the affirmative and 28 votes in the negative, House Bill number 427, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker?
The clerk will take the call. There being 134 members present, the House is still in session. Senate third reading calendar number 41. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 48, Education, Public School Construction Alterations.
Senate Bill 48 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title?
Madam Speaker, our computers are locked up.
Let's give it a minute. Let me know when you see it up. It's fine now? All right. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 48, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 74, Public Safety, Police Employees, and Deputy State Fire Marshals, repeal of pay rate restriction on promotion.
Senate Bill 74 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? The clerk will take the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does everyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 74, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County. Oh, okay. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill
It's
198,
okay.
Prince George's Community College Aerospace and Aviation Systems Technology Programs Feasibility Study.
Senate Bill number 198 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 198, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 337, Correctional Officers Retirement System Membership Clarifications.
Senate Bill 337 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman. Okay, no, all right. It's okay, just want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Go ahead.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to be recorded in
We
the...
are not doing vote change. We're in the middle of a bill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
I thought
okay.
we were done.
It's okay. All right. Did I tell you to call the bill? Okay, will you be so kind and read the next bill? This is the most interrupted bill. Seriously, the little bill that could. All right. Will you please take the call? There being 126 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 337, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the, any vote change? Go ahead.
Now I need it, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to be for HB 1353. I'd like to be recorded in the green. Thank you.
All right.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the lady from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Same, House Bill 1353 in the green, please.
Thank you. The gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On
You're
House Bill 427 from green to red, please.
Anyone else? The gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you. 680
You're
House
welcome.
Bill in the red.
Anyone else? Please be so kind and turn in your yellow slips. Baltimore County.
SB 337 green. Thank
All
you.
right. Gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
SB 337, yes.
Anyone else? All right. We're going on to Senate third reading calendar number 42. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 379, Recovery Residence Grant Program Funding.
Senate Bill number 379 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none. Any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 379, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 491, Law Enforcement Officers Pension System, Military Service Credit Eligibility, Helicopter Pilots.
Thank you. Senate Bill 491 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 491, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 532, Higher Education Institutions Over-the-Counter Contraception, Access, and Reporting.
Senate Bill number 532 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
If
welcome.
the floor leader would answer
Floor
an
leader.
inquiry. Right there you are. We're so close. Does the bill still, we've seen a version of this bill. Does the bill in its current form that we're voting on, does it use public funds to purchase over-the-counter contraceptives? Okay. And the over-the-counter contraceptives access that is provided, because it says higher education institutions, I assume unless, there's rare people that are geniuses that are going to college when they're 14, 15,
Right.
that 99% of these individuals who could access it would be 18 and up. They would be
Yes,
adults.
that is correct, sir.
Okay. And all it does is it says where the access is,
Yes.
and we're going to, what's the reporting?
The reporting, actually, both bills are in the same posture, the Senate and the
Okay.
House version, and we want it reporting on what types of contraception people are actually utilizing and disaggregate them by type just so we know what are people using.
Does it include contraceptives that would be, I'm not using the right word and I want to be careful about this, but sort of Plan B pills or things that are abortifacient after the act?
It could.
It could include those?
It could.
Okay, thank you.
No, your problem.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Frederick.
The minority leader inspired me to ask a few questions. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So just a quick question. So on college campuses, we have a lot of Kids on Campuses program, especially in the summer. We have dual enrollment, which does involve a lot of high school students at younger and younger ages because we have early college and things like that that attend the on campus. So definitely under certain ages. And then I believe there's also some homeschooling situations, especially in our county, that use our community colleges. Would they be able to have the same access as students that are over 18?
Well, they're not part of the Student Health Center program because they're not formal students at the college.
They are. Dual enrollment
We're
students
talking
are
about dual
full
enrollment.
Yeah, dual
well,
enrollment
this
are
is
full
supposed to be
students.
available to students 18 and over.
Okay. Do they ID them or anything? Or
I
can
can't speak
anyone?
with specificity on that, but happy to get back to you. But this is a program that's already existing under
Right.
the law. This is just revisions about reporting.
Yeah, so reporting, and I think that might be something to report on because it's actually a lot of vending machines as well, and I
Correct.
wouldn't think.
Mainly
so,
at the community colleges, more so
Yes.
because they don't have student health centers.
Yes, exactly. All right, thank you. I appreciate
No
it.
problem.
All right, seeing
Madam
no-
Speaker?
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
I don't have any questions, but I appreciate my friend, the floor leader, for answering the questions that already came. But I do want to say, even though this may not have anything in the fiscal note, at the end of the day, we will be paying for this. Many higher education institutions we do contribute financially to as a state, and our children will be paying the prices for several bills this year. This bill will be one of them that's going to increase the potential cost, maybe nominally, but there's other bills like including adjunct professors in collective bargaining. That's going to raise the cost of college education at a time when college educations are actually losing their value in the market and AI is sweeping in to pick up these jobs. So we'll be charging them more for a degree that is now worth less for a job market that is about to be non-existent. So that is another reason besides just the fact that it's obviously abortion related to be read on this bill.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you. Good
You're
morning.
welcome. Good morning.
If the floor leader could answer a question for me.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I think I heard you said there's no fiscal note.
No.
So how does it get to be free on page 3 of the bill when you say that a description, that there will be a survey that the institution or community college has consulted with students and student organizations in relation to providing over-the-counter And also compiling data and sharing data, do you have a volunteer that does that?
Well, no, we mean fiscal note by there's administrative costs that are incidental to just facilitating the existing law. The existing law actually requires that there be a survey and a report conducted by higher education institutions related to this.
Why is it new language then if it's existing?
Because we also included the community colleges in subsequent legislation, so we're harmonizing both the expectations for our 4 years and our 2 years.
So there's really no fiscal note, because somebody has to compile, somebody has to interpret, somebody has to report.
And we're thankful for that.
I'm sorry?
And we're thankful for the people that are going to do that great work.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm glad you're thankful. I just want to point out that there is a fiscal note to this. It seems like a really great invasion of privacy. I don't know who's answering these surveys, but I'm a red on this bill. I don't think we need to be doing this. We need to make sure our institutions of higher education are teaching kids how to read, write, and do all of the academic activities. And they're responsible enough to figure this stuff out on their own. Thank you.
All right. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, Senate Bill numbered 532, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 769, University System of Maryland Academic Facilities Bonding Authority.
Senate Bill number 769 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 769, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change? Recognizing the gentleman from Prince George's.
On the last bill, Madam Speaker, thank you. I'd like to cast my vote to yay.
Please fill out your yellow slip.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? And thank you. All right. We're doing next Senate third reading. What is it? Senate third reading calendar number 43. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 226, Maryland Heritage Area Authority and Heritage Areas alterations.
Senate Bill number 226 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 107 votes in the affirmative and 28 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 226, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 573, Charles County Governing Bodies of Common Ownership Communities Member Training.
Senate Bill number 573 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 573, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 741, Financial Institutions and Activities Virtual Currency Kiosk alterations.
Senate Bill number 741 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 741, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 770, Economic Development, Maryland's Future Board Establishment.
Senate Bill 770 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
Could the floor leader rise to
Floor
answer
leader?
question?
Floor leader is up.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I noticed the fiscal note is 1.7 million. Is that still correct?
Yes, it's still correct.
And can you tell us, this is creating another new layer of government that does what?
It's not creating a new layer of government. It creates a temporary board to evaluate Maryland's economic competitiveness in a holistic manner. In fact, the bill requires the Comptroller's Office, with slight tweaking of the language, to conduct the study, to collect the economic data and do the analysis, and then the Comptroller is required to turn over the data and the study to this board, and the board will sunset after 5 years. And the goal is to evaluate where we are, how to position ourselves, and how to pursue opportunities in those strategic industries and recommend projects.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll be voting against this bill. We have a huge budget deficit. Now is not the time to create a visionary board to, figure something like this out. What our taxpayers want is to keep their own money. If you look at the Comptroller's last report that she put out, she said that we are losing population. People are leaving our state. And then if you look at the polling, you know why. It's taxes and fees that are just making our beautiful, wonderful state unaffordable. At some point, we need to say no. No more unnecessary spending. No more Maryland Future boards. No more visionary whatever. Let's let people keep their money. So I am a proud red against this bill.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just really had a quick question for the floor leader about the bill and then the members. Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is it looks like the purpose of the bill is to create a future board, at least that's the title of the bill, for economic development, I guess, for future kinds of economic activity that this particular board would want. Like you're talking about, what are the areas that they wanted to focus on?
Mostly industries of the future, including robotics, AI, advanced manufacturing, quantum, etc.
Okay. So my question is, why are nonprofits part of the board?
Why are nonprofits?
Yeah,
so, nonprofits could be a broad range of organizations, including chambers of commerce, kind of membership organizations that are deeply, knowledgeable about the economic dynamics and market conditions to advise.
I mean, nonprofits most of the nonprofits in Maryland are on life support from the taxpayers rather than from a private sector. So I'm just curious, why would you include, by definition, nonprofits are not creating money and revenue, they're taking money from the taxpayers. So I'm just trying to figure out why they would be part of a board whose purpose is to improve economic development in a state like Maryland where economic development is almost moribund.
Well, first of all, that's not the focus of the bill. I don't know why you want to focus on nonprofits as just one element for consideration in terms of membership of the board. This bill is about making Maryland more competitive. Isn't that what everybody in this chamber would want the state to do? And it's a very small investment into our future to make sure our strategies and tactics are all aligned across the board, across different agencies. So if you want to single out nonprofits, I can tell you nonprofits oftentimes do what the government cannot do as effectively and efficiently, and also what the private sector wouldn't do on their own. Nonprofit is a great independent sector that's an important part of our civil society. So I would be the first to defend the values of nonprofits in terms of how they use any dollars that the tax dollars actually are appropriating. In fact, many of them rely on individual donations, organization donations, and other grants and charitable contributions, which is why they are more cost effective. I don't know why you want to single out nonprofits of all the members.
Thank you. So, Madam Speaker, on the bill, we just heard a lot of comments about nonprofits and why they would be on an economic development board, which, of course, I don't think makes any sense whatsoever. But on Senate Bill 770, what I can't understand is it's a bill to talk about Maryland's future economic development. Why aren't we talking about Maryland's current economic malaise? Because that's really the crisis. The crisis isn't what's happening years from now. The crisis is literally what's happening now. I mean, I just read this morning, as we often do in this chamber, where you'll get out the online newspapers and so forth, that Apple is closing their store in the Towson Town Center because they're concerned about unrest and crime. It's pretty remarkable because I remember going there. My father had a business in Reisterstown, and I would go visit him and then go to that town center with my kids, and it was a wonderful place. Why is there so much economic malaise in Maryland? Why is it happening now? Why is it that buildings in Baltimore City and the harbor are selling for tens of millions of dollars less today than they did 25 years ago? Talk about the definition of failure. So here we are talking about Maryland's future board when we should be talking about what's happening today. And what I don't understand is why we would need nonprofits as part of that conversation. Because the state's effectively broke, and nonprofits are not the ones that are going to solve that problem. It's actual economic development that we need today. So for all those reasons, I'm voting no. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I echo the gentleman from Calvert County. I just want to confirm, I think that the gentlelady, she said, or she asked, was the fiscal note, you said it was 1.7 million? And if the...
Yes.
What is that 1.7 million going to? Because, I mean, economic development, we have a lot of brilliant business people in this state that I would sure be willing to meet for free. And we had, for example, a few years ago, one of our top business people was on the president's advisory for our business group back when President Trump was the first term, and he was screamed out of town because of the politics of the president. So I guess my point is, I think we should be doing things, obviously, to improve our economic development, but why do we need to spend almost $2 million to do so? So what does the money go to?
So $200,000 of which is for the report, which depends on the comptroller's economic analysis, and the board is supposed to report to the General Assembly and the governor by, I think, January of next year. And then the 1.5 million is in the Commerce Department to establish a new fund called the Maryland's Future Fund. So when the board actually recommends projects, it will have some initial funds to establish some infrastructure within the organization to support that.
Well, thank you for your answers. I'm going to be voting no for this, and I'm glad I caught them. Thank you to the gentlelady behind me for bringing up the fiscal note. I think we can do a lot of good, and we have to stop spending in this state. I mean, almost $1.7 million to create a fund where there are hundreds of millions of dollars of economic development, billions already being spent. This is just a further waste, and we are in a structural deficit. We need to do better.
I see the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I will be also joining some of my colleagues in voting red on this bill. We don't need another board. We don't need another layer of government to figure out why Maryland's economic malaise exists. And as far as another study goes, we've been studying this problem for a really long time. And I do love it when stuff like this comes out in an election year saying, hey, we got a study, we're going to fix the problem in the future. Well, why don't we look at some of the studies that we've already done? And the one that comes to mind was the Augustine report. About 10 years ago, we had a report, there was 32 recommendations from cutting corporate income taxes and basically using the same policies as Virginia. Let's face it, there's a thing that we use in business called R&D. In politics, it doesn't need to be research and development. It can be rip off and duplicate. And you look at the states are super successful right now. Like all the states where our citizens are moving, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, they're cutting taxes and empowering individuals. They're not using more taxpayer money to set up a fund to give out to nonprofits and other crony capitalist things. This is the problem in our state. We need to get our house in order. We have no growth. That's unacceptable for a $71 billion of investments that we're doing. It needs to start now. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to remind the body that the House cross-file, which is sponsored by the Speaker, was voted out with strong bipartisan support overwhelmingly with 127-5. So, you know, this body approved the identical bill. So I don't know why all of a sudden some people wake up and say it's not a good idea to be economically more competitive. Yes, I believe Maryland needs to do two things, right, in order to make ourselves more competitive. One is to be more sensible in our business regulation, and I have been working on that with many members of the minority party. And two is to make strategic investments. And this bill is about making strategic investment in the future, especially with the political headwinds and the economic changes that are faster beyond any of us can possibly conceive. Why don't we want to position ourselves smarter in a more aggressive fashion? So please, I urge the body to vote green on this bill.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We hear the concern about the fiscal note. And yes, we are in a very challenging fiscal moment, but that is exactly why this bill matters. When the resources are tight, we don't stop planning. We plan being very smart. And this bill is not about spending recklessly, it is about setting direction. So every dollar we invest going forward is more strategic, more targeted, and more effective. And on the question of nonprofit, they are not outsider to our economy. And they are on the front lines, delivering services, supporting communities, and often solving the problem faster than government can. And if we are serious about building a stronger future, we need all voices at the table, businesses, labor, academia, yes, nonprofit as well. Because the best idea don't come from one sector, they come from collaboration. This bill is about smarter planning, not bigger spending. I respectfully will be voting in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Thanks for a second bite at the apple. Floor Leader, reading further into the fiscal note in the bill, it looks like that 1.7 million is just an initial we'll call it investment into the Visionary Future Board. The actual fiscal note, I think, is much higher, isn't it?
It depends on what projects they recommend and what projects would actually be funded.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
we don't know.
And for the record, when this board gets established, the report that is mentioned in the fiscal note, you can click on it and read it, the comptroller's report, says that Maryland's economic growth is stalled and we are not competitive across the country or especially with our neighboring states. So I hope as part of the Visionary Board, the board will look at competitiveness and tax structure and see that taxes, people vote with their feet. And taxes are driving our economy to be stalled and jobs to leave and people to leave. So the first thing you should do is look at our lack of competitiveness because our tax structure is much higher than our surrounding states and certainly much higher than other states that have zero state income tax. So I am voting against this. I don't think we need to spend millions of dollars. I think we need to lower our taxes and become more competitive economically. It's common sense. Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 108 votes in the affirmative and 18 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 770, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 772, Maryland Department of Health, Employment, Training, and Opportunity Database.
Senate Bill number 772 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 121 votes in the affirmative and 9 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 772, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 814, Residential Property Service Agreement, Defunct Service Providers.
Senate Bill number 814 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in an affirmative and 0 votes in a negative, Senate Bill number 814, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 818, State Center Development Contract Plan Requirements and Advisory Group.
Senate Bill number 818 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 818, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Vote change on SB 573 to red. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 573 to red.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 573 to red.
Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Join in the party. 573 no, please.
Recognizing the gentleman from Eastern Shore.
Yes, SB 226 to red.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
SB 226 to red.
Recognizing the gentleman from Carroll, who's been very patient.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've got a 2-for-1 special for you here. Senate Bill 770 and 226.
Thank you.
Going
Recognizing
green.
the gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't have a BOGO like the gentleman from Carroll, but I'll take 772 in the green, please.
Remember your yellow slips. Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 573 to red.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
SB 226 to red.
Anyone else? All right. We're doing concurrence calendar number 11. The clerk will read the first bill in the Senate amendments.
House Bill 561, Maryland Child Care Credential Program, Extension of Funding, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the Chair of Appropriations.
Move to concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 561 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative and 8 votes in the negative, House Bill number 561, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk, quorum call, please.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Anyone in the back? All right. The clerk will take the call. There being 132 members present, the House is still in session.
Madam Speaker, vote change.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Is it Senate? No, House Bill 561 to the red.
Thank you. Remember your yellow slip. Senate third reading calendar number 50. The clerk will read the first bill, please.
Senate Bill 673, State Procurement Apprenticeship Program, Accountability and Completion.
Senate Bill 673 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 119 votes in the affirmative and 12 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 673, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 825, Public Safety, Critical Infrastructure Protection.
Senate Bill number 825 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 825, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 859, State Procurement and Personnel, Liquidated Damages, Documentation Requirements, and State Fiscal Leadership Capacity.
Senate Bill number 859 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 118 votes in the affirmative and 14 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 859, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 927, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages Related Event Promoters Permit.
Senate Bill number 927 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 927. Excuse me, let me just finish reading the...
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. Senate Bill number 927, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
It's okay.
I just want to make sure I'm in the red for, in the yay for 770.
You're in the yay, green. All right. Remember the yellow slip. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My button didn't work for SB 673. I want to make sure I'm in the red.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
On Senate Bill 561, Senate Bill 573, and Senate Bill 818 to read.
Recognizing the other gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you,
You're
Madam
welcome.
Speaker. Vote change on HB 561 to red.
The lady from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on SB 573 to nay and HB 561 to nay.
Recognizing the lady from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 673, vote change to nay, please.
Any other vote change? Senate third reading calendar number 52. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 8, Criminal Law, Identity Fraud, Artificial Intelligence, and Deep Fake Representations.
Senate Bill 8 is on third reading and final passage.
Madam Speaker, can I ask the floor leader a question?
Yes, let me finish reading, okay? Okay, thank you. So, again, Senate Bill number 8 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I
You're
didn't mean
welcome.
to
It's
jump
okay.
in. Can the floor leader rise for a quick question?
The floor leader.
Sure. Good to see you, my friend and colleague from the Judiciary Committee.
Great to see you.
Please, what are your questions?
This is a great bill, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good bill. We did debate it extensively. Sorry about that, friends. But in the end, I thought it was a great bill, and it did pass unanimously.
I have two quick questions. First is, are you familiar with the Presidential Executive Order 14365?
It's not in my bill file, but please, if you know, illuminate for us.
It's ensuring that national policy framework for artificial intelligence requires that the federal government, not the state governments, will be regulating it. And I know that you have a particular affinity for this administration. I'm just wondering if you had any personal conflicts with that executive order.
I feel so happy that you asked me this question. I do have an affinity for this administration. However, I have a deep not affinity for the deep fake representations we're discussing in this bill, which seek to harm, harass, intimidate, threaten, or coerce people. So I think that it's okay for us to make rules sometimes, and the federal government can join us. I anticipate they'll make a policy very similar to the one that we've created because it's excellent.
So if I can paraphrase, it's okay for the state to maybe do some regulation and some policy making that the federal government the federal government doesn't necessarily agree with.
It will agree, but yes, thank you so much for your questions.
One final question is, I noticed in the definition of AI,
yes,
does not include sculptures. Is that correct?
No, it does not include sculptures.
So a sculpture of Socrates would not be included in this AI. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, no. That is such a shame. Thank you so much for your questions. This is a good bill, does good things for good people.
All right. The clerk will call the roll on that one.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 8, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 294, Criminal Procedure, Protection of Identity of Victim of Sexual Assault or Stalking.
Senate Bill 294 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 294, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 320, Criminal Procedure, Expungement, No Finding, and Case Terminated Without Finding.
Senate Bill number 320 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 320, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 482, Criminal Law, Interference with Critical Infrastructure or a Public Safety Answering Point.
Senate Bill number 482 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 482, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 524, Juvenile Records, accessed by Baltimore City Mayor's Office.
Senate Bill number 524 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 524, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change? All right. Recognizing the minority whip.
My button wasn't working on a couple things. 573, 561, and 770 to read. Thank you.
You're welcome. Senate third reading calendar number 53. Oh, recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 573 to read, please.
Almost missed you there. Thank you. How can I, right? All right. It happens. We miss things. All right. Senate Bill third reading calendar number 53. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 262, income tax subtraction modification for classroom supplies purchased by teacher, alteration.
Senate Bill number 262 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Hartford.
Madam Speaker, there is a wonderful gentleman who would love to offer an amendment on this bill, but he's just escaped for a few moments and has asked if I might hold this bill and its companion, if there is one, for a brief period so he could come back and offer his amendment.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good afternoon, I guess. I was about to say good morning to my colleague. My understanding was the amendment is on the next bill on this calendar, at least what he handed to me.
Excellent.
So I think we're good on this one.
Okay, thank you very much. Really? Oh, yes, you're correct. Thank you. Okay, save that. I'll be back.
All right. You did buy him a little time there. Okay, so let's do, where was I? All right, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 262, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 466, income tax credit for physician preceptors in areas with healthcare workforce shortages, alterations.
Senate Bill number 466 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Everything that I said on the previous bill, I would like to apply to this bill and see if we can hold this for a brief period so he could get back.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are 3 days before adjournment, and the gentleman is not on the floor to offer his amendment. However, because he gave us a courtesy of providing it, I would like to request that we hear this bill and special order it to this session, if possible, Madam Speaker.
We can do that for him. Thank you.
End of this session. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yes, I appreciate it. He should be back momentarily. Oh, he has arrived. He has arrived. Thank you. I guess we don't need the special order then.
Okay. All right. You had a lot of people looking out for you.
I have a sense you were waiting for me, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
I'd like to withdraw the motion to special order.
All right.
I have an amendment at the desk.
Yes.
The amendment number is 463226.
Amendment number 1.
Moves to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So I think we have an affordability crisis in this state for many reasons. And one of the reasons is that we tax Marylanders into oblivion. A lot of people are fleeing the state. A lot of people who are currently working, cost of energy, cost of groceries, cost of housing. But there are also a different group of people, and that are the people who are trying, they would love to retire in this state. They were born here, they've lived here their entire lives, they've spent their youth in Maryland, they'd like to retire here, but the state has become completely unaffordable, and because we have such a high cost of living, they find themselves in the position to have to move to another state. And a large part of that, why that happens is because Maryland has chosen what many states have chosen not to do. And that's, we tax our retirees, we tax their income. So what this amendment does is it repeals the taxation of retirement income. I think this is I love this bill, I love this amendment because it applies to every one of our districts the same. And as I talk to people around the state, they love the idea. It's an idea I think that resonates with Republican communities, Democrat communities, liberals, conservatives. Everybody loves the idea of retiring proximate to their family, proximate to their children, in the community where they grew up. I think this, as a matter of policy, is a great choice. It's something we should act on, and for that reason, I'd move the amendment today.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. One of my colleagues was just pointing out, and perhaps if the gentleman who's offering the amendment could stand up, what does the amendment actually do? I don't think we heard that.
It repeals the taxation of retirement income.
All right. Thank you for that. And I do appreciate you providing the amendment to me and to the committee chair in advance of this. So colleagues, I'll just first start with the amendment that has been offered actually is not actually relevant or connected to the bill that is before us, just so the body is aware. SB 466 is a very targeted tax credit to train more doctors, especially in rural areas and parts of our state where we have a demand for more healthcare providers. But the amendment, we'll speak to the substance of the amendment. The amendment before us is actually identical to a bill that is pending in the Ways and Means Committee, House Bill 707. And I raise that because it means that we have a very detailed and thorough fiscal note, as well as testimony that was provided on this bill when we heard this bill several weeks ago. So let me just note that, I think yesterday the chair of the Appropriations Committee said that there was an amendment offered that would have held the record for the most expensive amendment and bill that would have been considered by this floor. And I think he said $30 million. Well, I'll just point out, colleagues, that the amendment before us, by far, and I'll provide the data here in a second, would be the new front runner in terms of cost. So this amendment in fiscal year 2027 would cost just over $60 million. Now, of course, fiscal year 2027 is the budget that we just finished, that the governor just signed. We'd be putting a $60 million hole in a fiscal year for a budget that we've just completed and are about to start in the near future. But it escalates, it ramps up from there. Next year, nearly $400 million, and within 2 years, this would cost more than $700 million. It's not just about the fiscal note, however, that I am urging the body to resist this amendment. It is also on the substance of this. We received testimony from the Maryland Society of Accounting and Tax Professionals that noted in their testimony that this underlying the bill that this amendment is based off of would, quote, introduce additional complexity for taxpayers and practitioners, tracking eligibility, qualifying plans, and applicable percentages and interactions with other retirement-related subtractions, increases compliance risk, and the potential for filing errors and audit disputes. And for those reasons, our professional accountants and tax professionals in our state urged an unfavorable report on this particular policy. Now, I do appreciate the gentleman's comments about affordability. That is, of course, something that we are looking at this session, not just...
1 minute. It's a little loud, okay? Can we just keep it so that we can listen? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
And of course, we are looking at affordability and taking good actions this session because we know that affordability is a problem, not just for our seniors, but for many Marylanders. And I do just want to point out that there were a number of actions in this recently completed budget that are specifically designed to help our older residents here in Maryland. $20 million to help nearly 4,000 elderly residents who need assisted living or in-home supports. We're helping nearly 21,000 seniors to afford their Medicare Part D coverage. We're providing supplemental SNAP assistance for 29,000 elderly residents so that they don't go hungry. And that's just in the budget. There's a number of other bills that this body has passed and that are currently on the governor's desk, awaiting his action to help our seniors in Maryland. For instance, lowering the age for seniors to qualify for energy assistance, ensuring that the elderly and disabled Marylanders can continue to participate in the Heat and Eat program in spite of federal changes. We've created a new longevity-ready Maryland plan to meet the needs of our growing aging population of Marylanders. And I can go on in terms of the list there. So colleagues, I feel good about what we're doing to help our retirees, to help seniors in Maryland, and I would urge the body to resist this amendment.
Recognizing the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
I find the argument by the professionals who get paid by forcing retirees to have taxes on their income, I find that not to be a compelling argument. The gentlelady said we have a bill and it has a cost, and I agree. But I'd like to put that in perspective. First off, I think a several hundred million dollar taking several $100 million of revenue, that's not a cost. If we give those dollars back to our retirees, I think that's a cost savings. We've had a bill. We've had a bill for 12 years. In those 12 years, the state budget has increased by $30 billion. And during that time, every year, every time we come to this body, we are told that there's just not enough money to help out our retirees. Year after year after year. This year alone, the state budget has increased by $3 billion. And again, there is no relief, not $1 for our retirees. I would urge the body to consider when sine die hits and this session closes, who is going to get the tax relief? What will the law say about our tax policy and who we want to keep in Maryland? Developers are going to get massive tax subsidies. The governor's effort to subsidize the sphere will receive $180 to $200 million in tax subsidies. Found money for the developers. How about pharmaceutical corporations who receive up to a 75% credit on investments and an additional $12 million in R&D research? AstraZeneca alone received an additional $10 million in the governor's supplemental budget. So giant pharmaceutical corporations get their cut. How about data centers? As you know, Madam Speaker, this body, over the last, a couple years ago, during that time we raised the state budget $30 billion. This body gave the data centers, which we all like to malign, a complete sales and use tax exemption. So if a data center has a project that costs billions of dollars, man, they get a pretty big cut on the backs of the retirees who still have to pay income tax on fixed incomes. I think that's an injustice. I don't think our values are aligned as they should be. I think we should act to keep Marylanders in Maryland. I don't think we should walk away from this session prioritizing developers and pharmaceutical companies and the data centers, which everybody loves to pretend to hate. We have been told that we should leave no one behind. And in the same breath, we are taxing them like King John. I don't think we should ignore the calls of the people for relief on taxes while we watch them leave the state. As I've said before, the right time to do the right thing is right now. We should act to keep Marylanders in Maryland. Our retirees, who are members of every one of our districts, deserve attention, and for that reason, we should vote green today.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you. Would the floor leader answer a couple questions for the amendment? The maker of the amendment. Thank you.
Good evening.
So I'm reading
Good
your
afternoon.
amendment. Good afternoon. And it looks like it's not a blanket, all retirement income is tax-free.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So give us a little more information. So currently, if a retiree moves to Florida, it's 100% untaxed, correct?
Right. That's correct.
So we didn't go that far.
Right.
To keep grandma and grandpa here and keep them from moving to
Right.
Florida. So tell us in a little more detail what your amendment does.
So what this does is it applies to the retirement accounts that people typically use, IRAs, Roths, 401ks. I know it doesn't apply to that, but the typical retirement accounts any person could expect to use. And what it does is, with the expectation that there will be a fiscal note, it scales it in. So it's 30%, 60%, 100% over 3 years, understanding that there's an impact to the state budget.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I rise to support this amendment. Let's keep grandma and grandpa here in Maryland. They're living on retirement. We know that people are leaving. They're going to Delaware. It's my mom and dad, retired military, have said they wished they had retired in Pennsylvania because it's much more friendly to military retirees. It's not much. It's enough to keep them here And they're great citizens. They're not using our schools. They're not using the roads like a commuter. It's reasonable, helpful, and I think this is great policy. I'd like to see the whole board filled with green to support our retirees. Thank you.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I feel like the prior remarks have missed an important part of current tax law and current state law here in Maryland. For folks who were here in the 2022 session, which I was, as was the sponsor of the amendment, as was our colleague who just spoke, and many of you, we voted for a very significant expansion of, or rather creation of a tax credit that is targeted specifically to retirees here in Maryland, this Maryland Senior Tax Credit. This provided very significant relief, and in fact, for many retirees in our state, it zeroed out their state income tax liability to Maryland. We have acted, and that is providing more than $300 million a year in assistance to retirees in our state. We have acted as a body, I think, responsibly in addressing the needs of our retirees as well as Marylanders of other incomes. Because at the end of the day, the state does need income. And this particular amendment would put a huge hole in our budget at this time and going forward. And again, I would urge the body to resist the amendment.
Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the gentleman's amendment. Coming into this session, we talked about affordability being our top issue. I mean, this could be significantly easier than most people in the chamber think. Maryland collects a lot of tax revenue. We have control over that. If we cut taxes, guess what? Things get more affordable for our citizens. Other states that are not that far away have figured this out. But yet, time and time again, we come to session after session and really just make different decisions, right? Well, different decisions would equal different outcomes. It is time to actually live up to what we're trying to tell our constituents. If you want to make the state more affordable, here's the amendment. It's pretty easy. Voting green. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. The question before the House, I'm sorry. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County, you were standing. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was standing to move the previous question.
Oh, there you go. All right. I know I've been trying to let this move along, okay? To just allow the conversation to go, but please be mindful, okay? The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
There being 84 votes in the negative, the amendment fails.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the Environment and Transportation.
My vice chair did not work on that last vote. I'd like to be recorded in the red.
Okay.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing.
I also am going to follow the chair of my committee. I'd also like to be in the red, please, on that last amendment.
All right.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Also read on the amendment.
Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd also like to be recorded in the red in the last amendment.
Okay. Recognizing the delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to be recorded in the red as well on the amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Also read on the amendment on my senator's bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to be recorded in the red for the last amendment. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. The clerk would take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Everyone's ready? Okay. Should we wait for you to make it? Okay, all right. All right, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 6 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 466, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 507, Public Schools, Individuals with Disabilities, Accessibility, and Emergency Planning.
Senate Bill 507 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 507, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change? All right. Senate third reading calendar number 54. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 168, Study to evaluate blockchain-based real property title recordation and verification.
Senate Bill number 168 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 119 votes in the affirmative and 14 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 168, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker, the system is being funky. It's not moving around.
We'll wait a second. Let me know when it's up. It's up now? Okay, thank you for letting us know. The clerk will call the next bill.
Senate Bill 274, Fair Housing and Housing Discrimination Regulations and Discriminatory Effect.
Senate Bill number 274 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 274, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 325, Land Use Permitting Development Rights, Maryland Housing Certainty Act.
Senate Bill number 325 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 114 votes in the affirmative and 21 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 325, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 438, Commercial Law Self-Service Storage Facilities Alterations.
Senate Bill number 438 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 438, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 582, Consumer Protection Unsolicited Loans.
Senate Bill 582 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 582, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 747, condominiums, unit owner responsibility for damage or destruction and mandatory insurance coverage.
Senate Bill number 747 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 2 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 747, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 783, credit unions, mergers, and consolidations, alteration of voting requirement.
Senate Bill number 783 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 783, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please. I'm sorry, Senate third reading calendar number 55. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 378, education regional resource centers and county libraries funding.
Senate Bill number 378 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 115 votes in the affirmative and 21 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 378, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 468, local government grant for recipients of state child tax credit authorization.
Senate Bill number 468 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 468, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. So could we read the next bill, please?
Senate Bill 469, Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund, Affordability Program, and Industry Automobile Insurance Association assessments.
Senate Bill number 469 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so
You're
much
welcome.
Consider the reading of the amendment.
So,
Bill is
hold on a minute. We don't have an amendment up here. Do you have a floor amendment? Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could we just hold this bill to the end of this calendar just for a moment, please?
We could do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The question before the House is to hold Special Order Senate Bill 469. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 469 is going to be held until the end of this calendar. Will the clerk be so kind and read the next bill, please?
Senate Bill 535, County Boards of Library Trustees, Membership, Student Member.
Senate Bill 535 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 112 votes in the affirmative and 23 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 535, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 540, Home Detention Monitoring Agencies, Promotion and Solicitation of Business Prohibition.
Senate Bill number 540 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 540, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 734, State Retirement and Pension System, Administration and Clarification.
Senate Bill number 734 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative. Senate Bill number 734, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Any vote change? Recognizing the lady from Hartford.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. SB 325 to nay.
Recognizing the chair of the Judiciary Committee.
Actually, Madam Speaker, I was just wondering when you were going to call back the bill, but it's
We
fine.
are a little later.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. SB 535 from yes to no.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County. Baltimore Cities. Go ahead.
I would like to be, thank you, Madam Speaker. I
You're
would like to
welcome.
be recorded in the green for SB 524.
Thank you. Remember to
Welcome.
turn in your yellow slips, everyone going to Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
welcome.
SB 859, I wanted to be in the green.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore in the back.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My finger
You're
didn't work
welcome.
on Senate Bill 770. I want to be recorded in the green, and vote change on Senate Bill 325 to red.
Thank you. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Red on SB 325, please.
You're welcome. Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
SB 378 to green.
Recognizing the delegate from Carroll.
Thank you.
You're
Senate
welcome.
Bill 770 to no.
Anyone else for a vote change? Recognizing the delegate from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
SB 325 to red.
Anyone else? All right. We're doing Senate Third Calendar Reader number 58. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 70, Adult Education, High School Diploma Pathways, MD Diploma Works Pathway.
Senate Bill number 70 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the reading and final passage? Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the Senate Bill number 70, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 99, Open Meetings Act, County Boards of Education, Enhanced Requirements, Local Boards of Education Transparency Act.
Senate Bill number 99 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I just have a quick question for the floor leader.
Floor leader. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. So I just had something happen in my county, and I'm wondering if this bill will fix it. My county board of education just voted on a comprehensive package for our interim superintendent, but they held a closed meeting with closed votes, so the public didn't hear about any of it. Does this address that specific issue, or does this touch on a different part of open meetings?
Closed meetings aren't subject to the Open Meetings Act, so they would
So
not
that's
apply to
still
them.
going to stay, that's going to be an allowable closed meeting still?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so what does this do exactly?
Just says that you have to record them and make them available for people to watch. I forget if we kept it at 1 or 5 years. I think we went to 1 year that they have to be kept available for folks. It's
Oh.
still 5?
Oh, it's
still 5. I thought we talked about changing. I didn't know if we had.
Okay, I like 5 better.
Well, you know.
So I'm going to be green on this bill, even though it doesn't fix the weird thing that just happened in my county. I
Sorry.
appreciate you. Thank you.
I would love to come fix that for you as quickly as I can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 99, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know we discussed this on the House bill version. I just do not think this is the right direction to go. States of emergency really needs to be retained in the hands of the governor's office. That is the appropriate place. He is responsive to the people that elected him, or should be, and I don't like the idea that we're giving state of emergency powers to someone who is appointed that can change with the wind, as we've seen over the last few months with this administration removing people. And so I'm not comfortable with this. And the one county that did have an issue was actually able to create a very comprehensive plan for their students in Washington County that did address their educational needs and did not require this bill to be in place to do so. So I am a hard red on this bill. Thank you.
You're welcome. The clerk will take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 218, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. The clerk will be so kind and read the next bill.
Senate Bill 292, County Boards of Education, Student Transportation, Sunset Repeal and Study.
Senate Bill number 292 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 292, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 359, Child Care Facilities Criminal History Records Check Requirement.
Senate Bill number 359 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker. Children and training of child and youth care practitioners.
For the Chair of Judiciary, we're going to do the bill next after this. Senate Bill number 402 is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Is there any debate? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 120 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, Senate Bill number 402, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Vote change on Senate Bill 325 from green to red.
Wonderful. Remember to turn in your yellow slip to the gentleman from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Senate
welcome.
Bill 325 from yea to nay.
Anyone else for vote change? All right. Just for planning purposes, just hang in there. We're going to do this special order. We have a couple of concurrences, and then we will adjourn until the next session, okay? Hang in there. Special order calendar for Senate Bill 469, and I'm going to recognize the chair of the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
All my questions have been answered.
Okay. Thank you.
Senate Bill 469, Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund Affordability Program and Industry Automobile Insurance Association Assessments.
Here you go. I have a chocolate for you. I made a mistake. You're depleting my chocolate stash. All right? Right. And he's taking it too. All right. Senate Bill 469 is on third reading and final the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, Senate Bill 469, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. House bill amended in the Senate, House Bill 154. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 154, Open Meetings Act, County Boards of Education, Enhanced Requirements, Local Boards of Education Transparency Act.
Recognizing the committee chair, Ways and Means.
Thank you so much,
You're
Madam
welcome.
Speaker. The Senate amendment conforms the bill to SB 99 as passed by the Senate, which altered the scope of the exception to edit archive video content. Motion not to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to not concur with the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refused to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully request the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Isolde, Chair, Delegate Vogel, and Delegate Hornberger. Said bill is returned herewith.
House Bill amended in the Senate, House Bill 175. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 175, Income Tax Credit, Venison Donation, Alterations.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you so much,
You're
Madam
welcome.
Speaker. The Senate amendments strike the House changes and conform the bill to the same posture as originally introduced. Move not to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is not to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are rejected. The clerk will read the message to the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refused to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully request the Senate recede from its position. Said bill is returned herewith.
Concurrence calendar number 12. The clerk will read the first bill. Ayes have it. House Bill 297 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 128 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 297, having received a constitutional amendment, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
Senate Bill 363, Local Government Grant for Recipients of State Child Tax Credit, Authorization, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you so much, Madam
You're welcome.
Speaker. The Senate amendment conforms the bill to its cross-file, Senate Bill 468, as amended by the House. I move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 363 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 363, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 546, Primary and Secondary Education, Educator Professional Development, Course on Well-Being and Flourishing, Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
The Senate amendments allow additional types of professional development courses. The Ways and Means Committee moves to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 546. The ayes have it. House Bill number 546 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move
You're
to
welcome.
concur.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 936 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 936, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. That ends the work at the desk. Yes.
Just had a vote change. If I may?
Yes.
HB 546 TA, please.
Thank you. Remember your yellow slip,
Thank you,
recognizing the gentleman from Western Maryland. The one to my right.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the concurrence calendar, House Bill 363 to nay.
Recognizing the other gentleman from Western Maryland. Western Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Also-
welcome.
Also on the concurrence calendar, HB 363 to nay.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This might be a little inappropriate, but SB 325, I wish to be in the negative.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 573 and 77 read.
Recognizing the other delegate from the Eastern Shore.
SB 325 to nay.
Any other vote change from anyone? Committee announcements, appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
The
welcome.
Appropriations Committee will vote in the old House chamber immediately after session.
Economic matters.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
Economic Committee members, please listen. Following this floor session, we will meet on the State House steps for our photo, and then we will have a 1:45 p.m. vote.
Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health Committee will be meeting for a voting session at 1:30.
You're welcome. Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
The House Judiciary Committee will be meeting at 2:30 p.m. for vote session.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam
You're welcome.
Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will vote at 2:30 p.m.
Rules.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Rules Committee will have a very brief voting session to re-refer bills. We will have it in the old House chamber at the end of the chamber where Harriet Tubman stands.
Thank you. Any other committees? Announcements. Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
SB 363, my button didn't work. In the green, please.
Make sure you turn in your yellow slip. The gentleman from Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Senate Bill 573 to read. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else for vote change or committee announcements? Seeing none, how about subcommittee announcements? Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Revenue Subcommittee will be meeting, let's say, at 1:15 virtually. Thank you.
Any other subcommittee announcements? Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The K-12 Education Subcommittee of Ways and Means will meet at 1:45 p.m. Thank you.
Any other subcommittee announcements? Seeing none, delegation announcements. Recognizing the chair of the Prince George's County delegation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prince George's County House delegation will have a very brief meeting in the Silver Room right after floor.
Any other delegation announcements? Seeing none, caucus announcements. Recognizing the chair of the Maryland Legislative Latino Caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, today at 4 p.m., the Latino Caucus is hosting asada at the Assembly at the 180-170 patio in the House Office Building at 4 p.m. There'll be food for everyone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other
staff? Margie Brazel, who first started with me in 2014 and who is in the gallery with her husband, Jerry. I figured out that that 12-year stretch that she and I have worked together is 5 times longer than the time I've worked with anyone else here in Annapolis. Many of you have gotten to know Margie over the years and know how dedicated and smart and committed she is. And just as Delegate Phillips said about his chief of staff, whatever I've accomplished since 2014 is due in good part to Margie, and I'm very grateful. Though I will say that I don't think she knows as much about vernal pools as I do. So please join me in giving Margie a very heartfelt thank you.
That was great. Almost like
Congratulations. Recognizing the delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use
You're
the
welcome.
delegates.
Permission granted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this morning we recognized the retirement of one of our colleagues from Hartford County, and on behalf of the Eastern Shore delegation, please accept our apologies in advance. Please accept our apologies in advance. We don't have the precedent they set with the, proclamation, the flowers, and everything else. But this number is pretty close to the delegate from Hartford County. I want to recognize one of our colleagues after 24 weeks of service that our delegate from the Eastern Shore, Delegate Kevin Anderson, will not be returning, so if we could all recognize his record service.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I would like to introduce someone special from Frederick County today. Ashley Nieves is up in the front gallery.
Recognize Youth HIV Awareness Day. While progress has been made for young people across our state, especially Black and brown and LGBTQ youth continue to be disproportionately impacted. This day is not only about the data, but it's about access, education, and equity. And while we have the tools to end the HIV epidemic, testing, treatment, and prevention like PrEP, too many young people still face stigma and barriers to care. Today, I ask that we recommit ourselves to meeting young people where they are, expanding access, and ensuring that every young Marylander has the opportunity to live healthy and full lives. I ask all of you to join me in recognizing Youth HIV Awareness Day. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you probably have received an email recognizing the Seersucker Caucus. Please be dressed appropriate. You will have a ball and you will be looking good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker.
Wow. Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And these are not mutually exclusive. Some people call it sine die, I call it sine tie, all right? You would not have to wear the same tie 2 days in a row. We will have several legislative days on Monday. I expect you to change your ties before you come back to the floor. I want to point out, this is not gender specific. Permission to use some delegates' names, Mr. Speaker?
Granted, I guess.
Yes. My seatmate, Jen White Holland, Delegate Terraza, and Delegate Plakovich's car all wore ties and changed them last year. So please join us that wear ties every day. Change them out. See you then.
Wow. Delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two quick announcements. Permission to say delegates' names?
Granted.
Earlier in the beginning of the session, we, on behalf of the district, I wanted to welcome 94-year-old Korean War veteran John Taylor and his daughter Jocelyn Taylor. Mr. Taylor is a proud resident of the 41st District who lives in the Windsor Hills neighborhood for over 60 years. Mr. Taylor would like to thank you for your sacrifices and service to our great nation. Our debt to the heroic men in the service of our country can never be repaid. We will forever be grateful. On April 28th, Mr. Taylor will be participating in the Honor Flight. Honor Flight is an organization that honors veterans with a trip to D.C. to visit various memorials and receive special commendations honoring their time in the service. And like I mentioned, unfortunately, he had to leave, wasn't feeling well, but he stayed pretty much throughout the entire floor session. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention my guests have also left this. This morning, but Christ Villa is a church in my district. They are incredible. They are amazing partners with me, and they had a group of teenagers here today. They were sitting in the rear gallery, about nearly a dozen teenagers, and I promised those kids I would shout them out today, so I'm doing that even though they've left. We, with Christ Villa, this church they run a pantry, they feed people, they have a school, they are amazing, and so I just want to recognize them in their absence and thank them for being here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to use the delegates' names?
Sure.
On behalf of delegates Corman and Warman, please join me in welcoming the Doctor of the Day, Dr. Nadia Sardar. Welcoming the Doctor of the Day, Dr. Nadia Sardar. She is a board-certified internal medicine physician and public health specialist, personal friend as well. Thank you.
Any other personal or guest announcements? Quorum call.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. With 130 members being present, the House is still in session. The Majority Leader, please listen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Friday the 10th at 3:30 p.m. Legislative date March
3:30.
26.
Thank you.